you know, jet setting around, hanging out in airports, sipping creamy lattes, and throwing loose change to street urchins can be pretty damn exciting. But despite all the excitement of travel, I'd rather be at home wargaming. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Wargaming Chat with me, Brian Smith. And Happy New Year to all my viewers out there, as this is my first video for 2019. And yeah, it's just been very busy the last couple of months. We had a war game in late November, but certainly since then with Christmas and everything coming up, we've just been very busy. I hadn't had much of a chance to do any painting or scenery or anything. Right, what? Hang on. I need a corner knuckle marked A, but the nearest one I can find is marked with a 4. That's clearly a 4. But there's no 4 in the instructions. In the parts, there's no 4. There's a 4 and a 4B, but they're poles. And there is no part A that I can find the parts, but there's one marked with a 4. And it's... oh, my mind! Oh, who designed this? The Spice Girls? Spice Girls. Mine. But nonetheless, I'll show you in this video what I've been up to. We've got an unboxing of some miniatures I got from England just after Christmas. I'll show everyone what I'm up to with my proposed gravy tin project, and I'll also show you a bit of an insight into what our wargaming table looks like when we do some wargaming. And this is my big tea mug. Yes, tea. So without further delay, let's get into it. And here I've got a little box that turned up in the mail, and it is from Bad Squiddo Games, which is over there in Nottingham, I believe. And yes, I think I'll see if I can zoom into the close-up and we'll open it and see what lies within. Alright, as you can see, this is a box from Bad Squiddo Games. There's their little sticker on there, which is quite cute. And they're over there in Nottingham, United Kingdom. So let's see what's inside. Ah yes, excellent, a lovely note from Annie there. Yes, just a thank you note there, marvellous. Oh, and thank you for being patient, and Happy New Year, that's lovely. I wasn't in a hurry anyway. But I think Annie's very, very considerate of her customers, because basically I'm not in a hurry to get anything. Oh, here's some cards. Once again, I've got some Russian females to add to my army. Oh, they've got some little cards there, like postcard size. They're rather cute. Here's a bit of an advertisement for some forthcoming figures, some female Japanese warriors and Vikings. Oh, some sci-fi there. Oh yes. Oh, excellent. And a tea bag. Being a tea drinker, I quite like that. This one is Clipper, Natural, Fair and Delicious. A bag of our organic blackcurrant and acai berry infusion. That might be quite nice. Excellent, I do like tea. Now, what have we got? Oh yes. This time I've got myself a Russian female mortar team. That'll be good. It'll also give me a reference for scratch building some extra mortars, which shouldn't be too hard. Miniature mortar there looks fairly simply sculpted, so I should be able to whack up a few more mortars without too much trouble and create a few more mortar teams of my own using the existing miniatures I have. But the miniatures, they're a nice scale. They're a female scale for 28mm, so they're slightly smaller than an equivalent male figure, which is good. And yes, lovely sculpts by Alan Marsh, I believe. I do like his work. I think I've mentioned previously he does Romanians and Hungarians as well. Oh, here we go. This one's from the Plot Device. This is a female Russian spy there. I think the character's name is Olga Block. She's there with her fur hat and her trench coat and a pistol. So yes, good work, Olga. That'll be a nice miniature to paint up. That'll be quite splendid indeed. Stop moving! Can everyone see that? Oh well, do the best we can. Now what else do we have in here? Away packaging, away! Oh look! It's full of fun and games. I can't remember exactly what I got. I've got here... Oh! Looks like, I don't remember these, but they're just another infantry team. These look like tank riders. That's interesting. I don't recall actually getting any more tank riders. But I've got a box of tank riders there. That's a bit of a bonus. I didn't order any. Here we go. Yep, I've got a winter sniper team here. They're in winter gear and they're standing. You've got the observer standing, pointing with the binoculars, and the female sniper with her rifle all camouflaged and wrapped up. So yes, that's a nice little one there. And what have I got here? I've got... excellent. Bit hard to see here. But what I remember ordering was I've got a flamethrower team. Russian female flamethrower team. They look like they're nicely sculpted as well. Some more of the work of Alan Marsh. Yes, flamethrower team. That's very good. Now what else did I get? Oh, that's right. It's hard to see in here because it's all rather bunched up, but I got myself a Russian women's heavy machine gun. So it'll be one of those Maxim guns that is actually mounted on a little wheeled trolley with a shield in front. Hard to see there, but I'm sure when I paint them all up you'll see what they look like, so that's something to keep in mind for future. And what's the last thing? And the last thing I've got here is excellent female archaeologists from the 1930s. I got these because I thought you always need some civilians and people in that sort of period dress. So I've got here a little team of female archaeologists. In fact, let's just open it up and see what they look like. Right, I've got 4 of them here. I think 2 of them look a bit like old ladies, a bit similar to Miss Marple from Agatha Christie fame. The others look like 2 young women of adventure, a bit like Amelia Earhart-esque. That one there does look a bit like Amelia Earhart. So there she is. She's in her jodhpurs and her boots, and she's got a sidearm, and she's got a blouse and a tie and a short bobbed haircut, which is a nice one for the time. Nice little miniature, 28mm female. And I've got, oh, stand up, not the way they'll all be based. And this one here, oh, she's very adventurous, once again in jodhpurs, and she's got a pith helmet and a, looks like an automatic pistol. And she's ready for adventure. Excellent. Now yeah, we have a more decent looking lady in her skirt and her top, and she's got a nice sun hat and a cane, and yeah, coat with some pockets here. That looks rather nice. And the last one here, who do we have? Yep, she just looks like a lady with glasses on, skirt, hat. She's just got her hand to her hat just to keep it on from the wind or something. But yes, very nice little miniatures. I'm not quite sure who sculpted these, but they shall fit in perfectly with any World War II scenarios, just for whether I actually have a scenario involving female archaeologists or not. But I must admit, I'm very chuffed that Annie threw in some female tank riders. That's amazing. I must send her an email and say thank you. That's very, very kind and thoughtful, and I was not in a rush to get these. So there you go. I can't recommend bad Squiddo games for miniatures, especially if you just want some females for a bit of variety. And yeah, so check them out. But there you go, everyone. That's my unboxing. So I hope you've been very excited about what I've got in the mail from England, and hopefully we'll get to paint them all up, and I'll show you what they all look like when I paint them and see how they turn out. So yeah. Yes, thanks for tolerating my indulgence. And here we have just an ordinary gravy tin of a generic brand, just a powdered gravy tin. And yeah, the first thing I did was give it an undercoat of just grey spray paint, as I like dark grey. It's a good colour for me to sort of build up on. And I've also decided that the base of the tin will make a better top surface. But what to put it on? So I had a look at the craft materials. I got some long coffee stirrers, the thin real coffee stirrers, not the shorter, thicker craft ones, and a couple of small craft rods. They look about the right length for 28mm scale water tower legs. And just make sure you choose the straight coffee stirrers. And here we have my quickly built tower. None of the angles of the timber have been precision cut by any means, but I thought I'll just want to see what I could quickly whip up in half an hour and let it dry overnight. And there's my basic little water tower. Doesn't look too bad, and it's surprisingly stable. It doesn't wobble on a flat surface, which is always nice to have. A little bit of timber surface there to be colouring, but overall I think that'll work out very nicely for putting the water tower tank upon. And there we are, and that's what the tin looks like sitting on top. I think it should be an effective piece of scenery. And also thought I'd go nuts and make a little ladder for it out of a coffee stirrer. And look, the rungs are a bit wonky, but I don't think it's too bad for a first attempt. Because let's face it, on a water tower, you're going to need some sort of access to get up there to the pipes and valves and things when I eventually make them. So there we have it. There's my initial structure with the tank on top. I've just quickly given the tower a bit of an ink wash with a burnt umber ink. Just getting into all the little nooks and crannies and putting a bit more attention to the darker corners. Then I've gone and given it a bit of a highlight in just grey, just to slightly weather the timber a bit. And then another highlight of grey once more to make it look like a fairly weathered, older sort of tower. That's the project so far. I hope you like what I've been doing. Okay everyone, welcome to my first ever battle report. It's a quick and dirty one, so I'll just describe things as they happened. In our war game we had a Soviet column of a troop of tanks supported by infantry, basically moving in to attack a small town held by the Germans. Their strength was unknown, but they were in withdrawal, so our role was to basically capture as many Germans as we could before they evacuated and to secure the town. On the bridge to the left you can see where the tanks with some T-34s and JS2s and self-propelled gunner. There were some pigs there, they're vital. And we've already moved some infantry over the bridge behind the house towards the ruined church. We've encountered some German infantry in the ruins of the church, and you can see here we've got the Soviet infantry trying to take them on. The tanks, in the next turn, they've moved over the bridge, and they're basically trying to be aware. They're very limited by the terrain. The options are really just to go straight ahead, or they can go around the paddock and then the hedgerows to the left. The hedges in this particular game are not passable by armour, so that was a bit of a mobility restraint. Now some more Germans have appeared over here further up the road, and they're bringing fire on the infantry. They've also have anti-tank weapons, so they are firing their Panzer Shreks at our armour. And the first 2 or 3 turns really had us held up at the ruined church. We were firing weaponry into the church and the tower on the off chance there may have been Germans concealed there, but we really couldn't see much visibility at all. Oh, and I forgot to point out that the first 2 turns in this game were basically in darkness just before dawn, so that limited our visibility as well. Right, by turn 3 though, you can see that we have all our armour and our troops over the bridge, but someone fired a Panzer Shrek and took out my lead tank.
Because it makes sense.
So that was rather annoying, and it slowed things down because, of course, the following armour was forced to deploy, but very, very hard. It was an ideal place to ambush that tank. Some more German infantry was sighted further up, near the cottage to the right, but it seems that the whole objective of the Germans was basically to do a fighting withdrawal, so they were there to just hold us up as long as they could, because their objective basically was to get as many of their resources off the board, off the table before we got there, even if we hadn't seen them. There was a lot of secret moves by the Germans in this game. You can see here we're trying to move infantry up on the left flank, and yeah, but the Germans have still successfully held most of our Soviet infantry up at the church ruins. Little did we know what was behind the church that we just couldn't see. Alright, you can see my tank on fire there.
They're dead.
Oh yes, there's some throws. And yes, I think we took out some Germans there, took out the remaining German squad at the church holding us up. Now we've got one of the Russian tanks and infantry are hooking around to the left flank there. And you just don't know whether there's going to be more Germans and Panzer Shreks in the hedges, but that's the thing, you just didn't know whether they were going to hold you up or withdraw. It was quite an interesting game with regards to you didn't know what you were going to encounter and what was the quickest way to try and get to the other side of the table. Yes, there we go, lots of Russians. Oh, there's a minion in the pigs. I can't explain that. Now, the Russians are more or less as deployed as they'll ever be, and now they're starting to advance up the road. Still not a lot of activity from the Germans, so it made us wonder exactly what they were doing that we couldn't see. There's a squad of Germans back there, near a farm. I believe they're withdrawing, they're pulling back.
Can tanks go through rail fences?
And the Russians, as you can see from the closest side, are still trying to advance, but that's the whole thing about successful delaying tactics. You don't know what you're going to run into in the next hedgerow, and because of that you slow down, which works in the enemy's favour, as the Germans are able to just fall back, leaving you in doubt as to what you're going to encounter. But time is of the essence in this, as in all war games. I think this was a 6-turn war game. And yeah, and I think that my partner and I concentrated too much on taking objectives rather than taking terrain and distance. There we go, we've got our final piece of armour over the bridge. Yeah, 4 turns at a wrecked tank. Tends to delay your armour on the one road into town, so that was good work by the Germans there. Here we go, the Russians are past the ruined church, and oh good, a Panzer IV, that's just what you want, just up the road. So there's a Panzer IV, and it's firing straight down the road, so... And we couldn't see that until we just about came straight upon it. And the German misses, so the tank's able to close up. But then, of course, that's right, the Russian tank misses, and it misses again and again. Yeah, that's just life in wargaming, isn't it?
Meanwhile, the Russians got past the church, and what they found there was it was a deployment area where there used to be a field hospital, headquarters, that sort of thing, because the referee told us that we just found a lot of discarded bandages and empty packets and casings and things, and that the Germans that were there have clearly withdrawn. They would have been withdrawing from the very first turn through those fields and trees that you can see to the bottom of the board there and going to the right. So by the time the Russians turn up, the Germans, with their wounded and everything that we were supposed to capture, have already left. They've left the table and we never even saw them. So that's what happens when you don't move fast enough. Yep, there's one last section of Germans going through the tree grove down there to the bottom, towards the bottom of the table there on the right. They're about one move before they leave the table and we can't get to them. Still got some Russian armour over on the left flank there, getting bogged down in the paddock and trying to get into the narrow roads. Our armour and our self-propelled gun coming up the middle road there in support of the infantry, who seem to be moving along quite unstopped. There's no German resistance at this stage apart from that Panzer IV, and apart from the few elements of Germans we can see withdrawing. Yeah, the Russians are just barrelling along. This is in about turn 5. So I think the writing's on the wall here that we've killed very few Germans. They've taken out one of our tank and a few infantry, but for us to capture the table edge before they withdraw is looking pretty slim. And you can work that out with just movement, thinking that you know how far your troops and your armour can move in a turn. And when you look at the distance you've yet to go with a turn left, you know you're not going to make it. And there's me whinging about poor dice throws again.
Okay, Germans.
Yeah, so as you can see, the Russians have pretty much captured that field. They're within range of that house, but no one's shooting at them. So the Germans that were in the orchard over to the right there, they're off the table, they're gone. And that Panzer IV and that Russian tank, they're just missing each other.
Because your other tank just blocked them getting through.
Miss after miss, you wouldn't credit it in reality, would you? No, but that just seems to happen in Wargaming. And there's me wondering if I can use my self-propelled gun to drop some high explosive down on some retreating Germans and to move the self-propelled gun into a better position perhaps, but there's not a lot we can do at this stage. I mean, the only reason we're trying to hit that Panzer IV is because it's effectively the only enemy target on the table we can shoot at. All the infantry elements have departed. And there's my friend Mark with his the blast disc for artillery shells. But there we go, there's the Russian column is more or less getting its act into gear in the 6th turn. The Russian and the German tank there. The other tanks can't get a shot at the German because of the lead tank. The lead tank misses the German. And here we have the German is just discussing the finer points of having a shot and reversing off the table. And even at half speed, that's just going to happen. But that's the final deployment you can pretty much see there. We're advancing. Still being cautious about Germans in ambush, but I think it was clear to myself at this stage that the Germans that would have been there to ambush us had achieved their mission and they had just moved off the table edge. And we're just trying to get some last-minute shots into that Panzer IV, which we didn't really succeed. But nonetheless, for a game that took us most of the day, it was quite exciting and interesting because when you play a lot of the war game on hidden maps and diagrams where you don't really know what's happening, and we do this a lot in our games these days, it's quite exciting when you actually do put miniatures on the table because the game's not all about as many miniatures as you can get on the table, it's the game itself. But look, thanks very much for watching the Battle Report, and I'll see you again.
Alright, well, that's everything I've been up to so far, so it's been such a delay between videos, but I'll try and get my act together and try and get a few shorter ones, see if I can do one maybe once a month that's covering something that's ongoing or some new and interesting item I've picked up. And yeah, I'll just see if I can keep everyone advised and up to date with what I've been getting around to out here. It's just very hot at the moment. being summer in Australia. Our days are somewhere between 30 and 35 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in the Fahrenheit scale off the top of my head, but it's fairly warm. So you get used to wearing a thin veneer of sweat most of the time. But apart from that, everything's good. And I'll see you in the next video. So take care everyone out there, and I look forward to your comments. All the best. Bye for now.